Good afternoon. You are awake. I'm Bill Anderson, Director of the Michigan Department of History, Arts, and Libraries, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to this part of the Underground Railroad Conference that's being hosted by Grand Valley State University. And for this special treat, this noon luncheon keynote speech hosted by the Hauenstein Center for Presidential Studies at Grand Valley State University. The Michigan Freedom Trail Commission has an extremely important mission, as many of us know in the room because we're attending the conference and we have a great interest and passion for the subject. But basically, its role is to preserve and promote Michigan's role in the Underground Railroad. And those of you attending the conference, I hope you share my enthusiasm for what a great start we've gotten off to and what a wonderful program that's packed with so many great sessions. I'm sure there are some members of the Freedom Trail Commission, Michigan Freedom Trail Commission here. If you are, would you please stand so we could acknowledge? Now let me share with you a kind of a connection of why I'm up here moderating the beginning of this noon luncheon and lecture. I'm a member of Vita Tucker's team. She is the chair of the Freedom Trail Commission, and I'm a member of the commission. And I'm also the chair of the Michigan Abraham Lincoln Bicentennial Committee. And when I knew that Vita wanted to put together the conference, I suggested to her, why don't you partner with Gleaves in the Hauenstein Center and bring in a Lincoln scholar and speaker, and that's exactly what has happened, and I think it's just the perfect fit. So before I get Gleaves up to introduce our keynote speaker, let me present my colleague and friend. Now, Gleaves has an extremely impressive bio, but because he's not the main act, I'm going to abbreviate it. Gleaves Whitney became director of the Grand Valley State University Hauenstein Center for Presidential Studies in 2003. During his tenure, he has been the architect of more than 100 public programs, including 2 national conferences covered by C-SPAN. He is the author of 13 books, including most recently with Mark Rosell, Religion and the American Presidency, and Religion and the Bush Presidency. Gleaves is a senior scholar at the Center for the American Idea at Houston, Texas, and he is the first senior fellow at the Russell Kirk Center for Cultural Renewal. He is a graduate with honors from Colorado State University. He was a Fulbright scholar in Germany. He did graduate work at the University of Michigan, where he was a Richard M. Weaver Fellow and a H.B. Earhart Fellow. He has taught at the University of Michigan, Colorado. He has taught at Colorado State University, Grand Valley State University, and he received in 2006 the Doctorate of Humane Letters from the Graduate Theological Union in Berkeley, California. I've had the pleasure of knowing and working with Gleaves for the past 7 years. It's my privilege to welcome him to the podium.
Thank you very much, Bill. It's always a pleasure to partner with all the people who are involved in this. I'm going to second our partnership with Vita. Thanks so much for all of your efforts to pull off a great conference today. I'm going to applaud you too. And of course, with Bill Anderson, we do go way back, and I've always appreciated our discussions of Lincoln. I remember our first lunches, we talked about Abraham Lincoln, so we go back. And I've got to hand it to all of you folks here. I'm so glad that you showed up. You see, we had a little bit of an issue when we were planning this, because on, I think, Monday, Mandy Bird on my staff informed me that there's a competing event. There's a pillow fight on Rosa Parks Circle. We wondered how many of you would be at the pillow fight and not here, or how many of you would be caught in the traffic jam to get here. But it looks like we have a full house, so we appreciate your being here. Well, by my count right now, there are about 5 Lincoln pennies in circulation. And you could say that's almost a good metaphor for the number of, sort of the beginning of a number of metaphors that you get of interpreting Lincoln's life and his meaning for us in America. Well, we have, I think, the best of all here, Allen Guelzo. Allen Guelzo is the Henry Luce Professor of the Civil War Era and Director of Civil War Era Studies at Gettysburg College, Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. He grew up in Philadelphia. He holds an M.A. and a Ph.D. in history from Penn. He's the author of numerous books on American intellectual history and on Abraham Lincoln and the Civil War era. I tried to count up all the books and articles. I mean, it's a long list. I lost track, but one of the books that I wanted to bring to your attention is a book that was published by Erdman's here in Grand Rapids. It's a book that perhaps he's most known for. It's Abraham Lincoln, Redeemer President. And it really is a path-breaking work. The work was recognized by our colleagues, professionals in the historical profession. He won a number of awards for this book, the Lincoln Prize and the Abraham Lincoln Institute Prize in 2000. But he's written a number of other works, and I highly recommend them to you. And for his full bibliography, please refer to the program. He also is an author who's not afraid to venture into public affairs, current events. And if you open up a Christian Science Monitor this morning, for example, you will see his piece on democracy. Very thoughtful piece where he contrasts really a democracy of process versus a democracy really of purpose, moral purpose. A very interesting piece indeed. He serves on numerous boards professionally and civically, and again, I can't go through all of them because of time, but let me say he also has a strong Michigan connection. I found out this morning that he is married to a Michigander, and he comes frequently to Michigan, and some of you may recall that he was here in 2001 when Richard Norton Smith had the Abraham Lincoln Conference at the Ford. So he's certainly no stranger to West Michigan and to presidential studies in this area. I guess the thing that I want to say to you about him most, though, is his ability as a teacher. He has, the reason I discovered him as a presenter was by listening to the Teaching Company's courses that he teaches, I think, 3 or 4 courses on the Teaching Company, and he's an absolutely fabulous teacher. He's able to take very complex parts of our history and put it in a very digestible way so that students can understand. We saw it on display earlier this morning when we took him to an area high school, and he sat down with a 10th grade AP history class, and he went through the Gettysburg Address with these kids in a way that really connected. So he has that ability. That's one of the reasons we brought him in here to regale us. He's going to speak to us about the Lincoln-Douglas debates, which is the subject of a recent book of his. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Allen Guelzo.
Thank you, Gleaves. I'm happy to be back here in Grand Rapids. And just to illustrate how happy I am to be here, I'll tell you a story about Lincoln and about visitors to Springfield. Lincoln liked to tell the story of a revival preacher who one day approached the Illinois Secretary of State and asked if he could rent space in the old state capitol, preferably the Hall of Representatives. And for what purpose? Asked the Illinois Secretary of State. Well, said the revival preacher, I would like to deliver a series of lectures on the second coming of Jesus Christ. To which the Secretary of State replied, oh, I don't think that will wash. If Jesus Christ has been to Springfield once, he won't be back again. The same cannot be said about Grand Rapids. I am glad to be back here with all of you here in Western Michigan.